I don't think I've ever regretted a text more than the one I sent at 1:13 a.m. on a Thursday night. I was tipsy, still sweating from a rooftop party my friend dragged me to, and for some reason, I thought it would be hilarious to send my boss a meme. Not a risky meme. Just a dumb one about clients expecting 3 weeks of work in 2 hours. Totally harmless, except I don't text my boss. Ever. Definitely not at 1 a.m. The worst part? He replied. Not right away, but at 1:17 a.m., my phone buzzed. Funny, I think you're drunk. I stared at the message, heart suddenly thudding in my chest. Daniel, my boss, isn't just a regular guy. He's mid-30s, stupidly attractive, always impeccably dressed, and has the kind of dry, commanding presence that makes a room go quiet when he speaks. He barely talks during meetings, but when he does, he's sharp, precise. Everyone listens. He's never been anything but professional with me. Polite, a little distant, but always respectful. I admire him. Okay, fine. I have a little thing for him. A little harmless crush I never planned on acting on. Until tonight. Blame the alcohol, or maybe the fact that I felt invisible at that party. But I sent another message. Maybe I am. Want to join me? And then I threw my phone on the bed like it was on fire. But it buzzed again. Where are you? I stared at the screen for a full 30 seconds before I realized he wasn't joking. I left the party without telling anyone. Just grabbed an Uber and sat in the back seat with my hands clenched, watching the city blur past the windows. Was this real? Was Daniel actually coming over? I didn't know what to do. Should I clean my apartment, change clothes, brush my teeth for the third time? I went with changing into a clean t-shirt and splashing water on my face. Nothing could prepare me for the knock on my door at 2:03 a.m. I opened it, and there he was, Daniel. In a navy coat over a black shirt, his hair slightly tousled like he'd been running his hand through it. His expression was unreadable. You invited me, he said quietly. Yeah, I replied, my voice almost cracking. I didn't think you'd actually come. He stepped inside like he owned the place. My apartment suddenly felt smaller and warmer. Nice place, he said, glancing around. Cleaner than I expected. Wasn't expecting company, I muttered. He turned to face me, arms crossed, still unreadable. Why did you text me? I don't know. I was drunk. It was just a meme. He raised an eyebrow. And the second message? I hesitated. Impulse. Right, he said, but he didn't look away. You've been avoiding me. What? No. You used to stop by my office, say hi in the kitchen. But for the last few weeks, you've barely looked at me. I felt the floor shift under me. I hadn't realized he noticed. I guess I didn't want to be obvious, I said. Obvious about what? I didn't answer. He took a step forward. Now he was close. Too close. You think I didn't notice how you look at me? He said softly. I swallowed hard. His gaze flicked down to my mouth, then back up to my eyes. I didn't come over to talk about memes, he said. I came because you invited me, and because I wanted to. I didn't know what to say. I could barely breathe. He reached up and gently tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. I've been watching you, he said, and I think you knew that. I don't know how long we stood there like that, me frozen, his hand still barely brushing my hair, but it felt like time had stopped. His eyes didn't leave mine, and I felt like I was standing on the edge of something dangerous, and I wanted to jump. Daniel stepped back first. Just a small movement, but it let me breathe again. Sort of. I shouldn't have come, he said, but he didn't sound convinced. No, I blurted out. I mean, do you want to leave? He looked at me. Really looked. Do you want me to? I hesitated. That was my answer. Daniel walked past me, into the living room. He didn't sit down, just stood there, arms crossed, like he was still deciding what this was, what we were doing. I'm not here as your boss, he said. Let's get that clear. I don't want anything that'll mess up your job. Or mine. I nodded, heart still hammering. Okay. He finally sat on the edge of my couch. Not lounging, not relaxed, just waiting. I sat down across from him, hands clasped to stop them from shaking. The silence stretched. Not awkward, but heavy. Then he said, "You think I haven't noticed you?" "I didn't think you cared," I said quietly. "I've always cared," he said. "That's the problem." That stunned me. I blinked. "What do you mean?" Daniel leaned forward, elbows on his knees, voice low. "You walk into a room, and I can't think straight. You crack a joke in a meeting and I laugh, even when I shouldn't. You wear that ridiculous hoodie with the little ghost on it and I have to look away, because if I look too long I forget I'm your boss." I swallowed. Hard. I thought I was being careful, I admitted. I didn't want to make anything weird. "You weren't careful," he said. "You were obvious, and I liked it more than I should have." His honesty hit me like a punch. I didn't know what to do with it. Part of me wanted to kiss him. Part of me wanted to run. He leaned back slightly, gaze still fixed on me. "Why tonight?" I asked. "You texted me," he said simply, and I couldn't stop myself. The air between us shifted, thickened. I leaned forward, not even thinking, and our knees brushed. Daniel didn't move. "You ever done this before?" I asked. He shook his head. "No, never crossed a line like this, not with anyone." "But you wanted to?" "With you," he nodded. "Yeah, since the day you got hired." That admission undid something in me. I reached for his hand. He let me. It was warm, steady, but he was trembling, just a little. "I thought I was imagining it," I said. "The looks, the way you'd stand close to me when you didn't need to." "You weren't imagining anything," he said, his voice almost a whisper. He leaned in. I didn't stop him. His lips touched mine, gentle at first. Testing, then firmer. It was like touching electricity. Everything in me lit up. The kiss deepened. His hand came up to cradle my jaw, and I let out a sound I didn't mean to. He pulled back, eyes dark. "That okay?" I nodded. "More than okay." He kissed me again. This time, I kissed back like I meant it. I didn't know how long we kissed, but when we finally pulled apart, the air in the room felt different, thicker, charged. We were both breathing harder than we should have been. Daniel rested his forehead against mine, eyes closed, his hand still lightly on my jaw. "I shouldn't want this," he murmured. "But you do," I whispered. He nodded, barely. We sat like that for a moment, the weight of it all pressing in. It wasn't just attraction. It was the weeks of tension, the glances, the way we'd been circling each other without even realizing it. Or maybe he had. Maybe he'd been more aware than I ever gave him credit for. I leaned back, giving us a little space. "Do you regret coming here?" I asked. His eyes met mine. "No, but I'm scared of what happens next." I appreciated the honesty. He wasn't playing a role right now. Not the composed boss, not the confident guy in a meeting. This was Daniel, stripped of the professional mask. "I don't expect anything from you," I said. "I don't want this to mess up your job. Or mine." His gaze softened. "That's the thing. I don't think this is something I can leave here." A beat passed. "I didn't come here just because of the text," he added. "I've been looking for an excuse." That hit me harder than I expected. "You don't need an excuse," I said. He gave a small smile. "I kind of do. You're dangerous. You make it sound like I'm a bad idea." "You are," he said quietly, "but I'm still here." That shut me up. He stood, walked over to the window, and looked out at the street. His back was to me, but even in the dim light, I could see the tension in his shoulders. After a long moment, he turned around. "Can I stay?" It wasn't a casual question, not a hookup kind of thing. It was him putting something fragile into my hands. "Yeah," I said, almost too fast. "You can stay." He nodded, took off his coat and folded it over a chair. Then, a little uncertain, he sat beside me again. I moved closer until our shoulders touched. "You always this quiet?" I asked, breaking the tension. He laughed. Really laughed, for the first time since he arrived. It wasn't loud, but it was real. "Only when I don't know what the hell I'm doing," he said. Well, I said, nudging him, you're not the only one. We sat like that for a while, just breathing each other in. His hand found mine again, and this time he laced our fingers together. It felt easy, natural. Eventually, I stood. He followed me into the bedroom without a word. We didn't undress each other, didn't rush anything. We just lay on the bed, side by side, facing each other. His eyes searched mine like he was still trying to decide if this was real. Do you think we're making a mistake? I asked. Definitely, he said. But I think I want to make it anyway, I nodded. Same. He leaned forward, kissed me again, slower this time, like we had all the time in the world, and maybe, just maybe, we did. I woke up before he did. For a few minutes, I just lay there in the quiet, watching the early light stretch across his face. He looked different when he slept. Softer, like the tension he always carried in his shoulders had finally melted away. His chest rose and fell in a steady rhythm, and I let myself trace the curve of his jaw with my eyes. This was real. He was here, in my bed. My boss. The panic didn't come like I thought it would. What I felt instead was this strange calm, like something long simmering had finally settled. Eventually, he stirred. His eyes opened slowly, and when he saw me watching him, he didn't flinch or look away. "Hey," he said, voice rough from sleep. "Hey." There was a pause before he added, "I don't usually do this." "I figured," I said with a faint smile. "You don't seem like the crash at employee's apartment after a midnight kiss kind of guy," Daniel chuckled. "Definitely not." He sat up, rubbing a hand over his face, then looked around like he was trying to reorient himself. I sat up too, wrapping a blanket around my waist. "We should talk about this," he said. "Yeah." We didn't speak for a few seconds, the weight of what we'd done hovering in the space between us. Then he looked over at me, his eyes clearer now. "I'm not gonna make this weird at work," he said. "I don't want you to worry about that." "I'm not worried," I said, and it was mostly true, but I need to be careful. About everything. People talk, and I've worked really hard to build my reputation. I get it. He looked relieved, like he didn't expect me to be that understanding. Or maybe like he was still trying to figure out if I really meant it. "I'm not gonna tell anyone," I said. "This doesn't have to leave this room." He nodded, slowly. "Thank you." We got up and got dressed, moving around each other quietly. It wasn't awkward, exactly. Just careful. He checked his phone, then glanced at me. "I should go." "Of course," I said, trying not to sound disappointed. But before he reached the door, he turned back around. "This wasn't nothing to me," he said. I looked up. It wasn't nothing to me either. He stepped closer. "I don't know what happens next, but I don't want this to be the only time. It doesn't have to be." He searched my face for a moment, then leaned in and kissed me again. Slower this time, like it was a promise. Then he left. Back at work, everything felt normal, at least on the surface. Daniel didn't treat me any differently. He didn't linger, didn't look at me too long. But I noticed the shifts, the way he'd pause when I spoke, the way his eyes would flick to me across the conference room before he caught himself. We kept our distance in the office, and that was fine. It had to be. But there were moments, tiny charged ones, that gave it all away. Like when he passed me in the hallway and our arms brushed. Or when he handed me a report and let his fingers linger just a second too long. No one else noticed. But I did. He did. And it was enough. At least for now. 2 weeks passed. We didn't talk outside of work. No texts. No late night visits. No slipping into each other's space like that night ever happened. But it was still there. Every glance, every small pause when we passed in the hallway, it all carried a weight we didn't dare speak about. Then on a Thursday afternoon, just before 5, Daniel stopped by my desk. He leaned in a little, but not close enough to draw attention. His voice was low. "Stick around after everyone leaves tonight." That was all he said. Then he walked off like nothing happened. I spent the rest of the day in a fog, pretending to read emails and nodding through conversations. At exactly 5:01, people started packing up. By 5:25, the office was almost empty. A few stragglers lingered, but I could feel the space changing, thinning out. At 5:42, it was just me and him. I waited. At 5:47, he stepped out of his office and nodded for me to follow. He didn't say a word as we walked. Down the hallway, past the break room, through the side door that led to the back stairwell. It was quiet. Nobody ever used it. The door clicked shut behind us, and we were alone. He turned around and leaned against the wall. His shirt sleeves were rolled up, and he looked tired, but not the bad kind. More like he'd been holding something back and was finally ready to let it out. "I've been going crazy," he said. I swallowed. "Same." I tried to forget about it. I told myself it was just one night. "But every time I see you..." He didn't finish the sentence. I took a step closer. "You didn't have to forget." "I didn't." He exhaled, then pulled me in by the collar of my shirt. The kiss was rougher this time, less restrained, like all the careful distance we'd been keeping finally snapped. His hands were on my waist, then under my shirt, then on my back, pulling me closer. I pressed into him, felt the tension in his body unwind like a spring uncoiling. When we finally broke apart, we were both out of breath. "I don't know how to do this," he said. "But I know I want to." I nodded. "We'll figure it out." He rested his forehead against mine. "I'm scared someone's gonna find out," he admitted. "But I'm more scared I'll push you away if I don't let this happen." "I'm not going anywhere," I said. "Not unless you ask me to." He smiled, barely, but it was there. "Good, because I haven't stopped thinking about you." We didn't do anything more in that stairwell. No undressing, no rushing into anything we weren't ready for. But the kiss, that kiss, sealed it. This wasn't a one-off. It wasn't confusion or loneliness or a mistake. It was something real. He walked me back to my desk like nothing happened. Gave me a quick nod, said, "See you tomorrow." But the way he said it told me everything. This wasn't just starting. It had already begun. I was already half asleep when my phone buzzed. "Daniel, you awake?" I stared at the screen for a second before replying. "Me? Yeah. Daniel, can I come over?" There was no hesitation, no small talk. Just that simple question. Me. Doors unlocked. I didn't even bother to get up. I lay there in bed, heart thumping, staring at the ceiling and trying to steady my breathing. A few minutes later, I heard the faint click of the front door opening and closing. Quiet footsteps. Then he was in my room. He didn't speak right away. He just stood at the doorway, watching me in the dim light from the street lamp outside. "You sure this is okay?" he asked, voice low. "I'm sure." He walked over, slowly, and sat on the edge of the bed. There was something different about him tonight. More uncertain maybe, or just more exposed. "I couldn't sleep," he admitted. I sat up, pulling the covers aside. "Get in." He slipped out of his shoes and lay beside me, fully clothed. I didn't mind. We just lay there for a while, facing each other. No touching, just breathing in the same space, like the silence was enough. After a while, he said, "This thing between us, it scares me." "Because of work?" I asked. "Because of everything. You're younger, you're my employee. I don't want to hurt you, or ruin your career." I reached out and took his hand. "Then don't," I said. "We're not breaking any rules. We're not doing anything wrong. We're just two people who didn't expect this." His grip tightened around mine. "I never expected it," he whispered, "but I've never wanted anything more." That cracked something open in me. I leaned in and kissed him, slow, gentle, different from the last time. This kiss wasn't about urgency. It was about comfort, about saying, "I'm here, I see you, I want this too." He kissed me back, just as softly. Then he pulled away, forehead resting against mine. "Can we just sleep?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, "just sleep." He turned onto his side, and I wrapped an arm around him. We didn't speak again. We didn't need to. The warmth of him in my bed, the steady rhythm of his breath, those were enough. I drifted off with my face pressed into the back of his shoulder, thinking about how much had changed in just a few weeks, and how much more might be waiting. The next morning, I woke up first. Daniel was still asleep, his arms slung across my waist like it belonged there. The light from the window had softened everything. His features, the room, the whole situation. For the first time in weeks, I felt still, like I wasn't chasing something or waiting for it to go wrong. I stayed like that for a while, just letting myself have the moment. Eventually, he stirred. His eyes opened slowly, and for a second he looked at me like he didn't quite recognize where he was. Then he blinked, remembered, and gave me this quiet little smile that made my chest ache. "Morning," he said, voice rough with sleep. "Morning." He shifted onto his back and stared at the ceiling for a few seconds. "I'm not great at this," he admitted. "The whole feelings thing." I propped myself up on one elbow. "You're doing fine so far." He gave a tired laugh. "I've spent so long trying to keep everything compartmentalized. My career, my personal life. Never let them cross. And then I showed up," I said. "And then you showed up," he echoed, glancing over at me. "And the boxes stopped working." That sat heavy between us for a moment. Not in a bad way. Just honest. "I don't want to do this halfway," he said finally. "If we're going to keep seeing each other, I need to stop pretending I'm not into you. At work, outside of work, wherever. I can't pretend anymore." Something in my chest loosened. "Then don't." He looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. "But we have to be smart about it," I added. "We can take it slow. Be careful." Daniel nodded. "I can do that." I could tell he meant it. We spent the rest of the morning quietly. No rushing, no expectations. He made coffee in my kitchen while I sat on the counter and watched him like it was some surreal dream. This man who used to be untouchable, a fixture of authority in my life, now barefoot and sleepy and pouring me coffee. Before he left, he stood at the door and looked back at me. "I meant what I said," he told me. "This isn't nothing. Not to me." I stepped closer. "It's not nothing to me either." He leaned in and kissed me, soft and slow and sure. "I'll see you Monday," he said. And just like that, he was gone. But something about the way he said it told me we were just getting started. Monday came, and with it, the same gray office building, the same elevator, the same quiet hum of early week exhaustion. But for me, everything felt different. I passed Daniel in the hallway. We didn't touch, didn't exchange more than a nod, but the way he looked at me, just a half second longer than necessary, said enough. We played it cool. No one noticed. No one even suspected. But the space between us kept changing, sharpening. Quiet smiles, longer silences in one-on-one meetings. The feeling that any second, one of us might give in to something more. Then, midweek, it shifted again. Late Wednesday afternoon, Daniel messaged me. "Need to talk." Tonight, he came over after dark, like before. But this time he was tense, his jacket still on, pacing slightly. "I've been thinking," he said. "That's never a good way to start a conversation," I joked, but he didn't smile. "I don't want to do this halfway anymore." That stopped me. "I don't want you to feel like I'm hiding you," he continued. "I don't want us to only exist behind closed doors." I didn't know what to say. Part of me had accepted the secrecy, the trade-off for having him in whatever way I could. But hearing him say it, he didn't want to hide anymore. Something clicked. "I don't need everyone to know," I said, "but I don't want to feel like I'm something you're ashamed of." "You're not," he said quickly. "God, you're not, that's the thing. You've been in my head since the day you started, and I've spent so long trying to push that away. But I'm done pretending it doesn't mean anything." The air between us charged. "You mean that?" I asked. He crossed the room, closed the distance, and put his hands on my face. "I want more than just late nights and stolen glances. I want something real." He kissed me, hard, certain. When we broke apart, I was breathless. He was too. "Okay," I whispered. "Let's do this. For real." We didn't go public the next day. or the one after. But we stopped pretending. We let the walls drop, little by little. Lunches outside the office, inside jokes that actually meant something. His hand brushing mine in a quiet corner of the world we built between our real lives and this new one we were starting together. And for the first time in a long time, I stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop. Because I knew, whatever came next, he'd be there. Not as my boss, but as him.